Welcome back to Grace Pilled. In this episode, the roles have flipped. Monica is interviewing me. And for once, I am not the only one asking questions. I am the one answering them. And we get into some territory that I don't always talk about publicly. We're going to explore what it's actually like to live, work, and be perceived online, the strange reality of having an online persona, a digital duplicate, what I think people get wrong about me, and how I navigate running a business inside of an algorithmic ecosystem. We also talk about attention fatigue, the pull of constant stimulation, my own digital habits, the good and the bad, and maybe a little bit unhinged, and why analog life has become such a grounding force for both of us. It's part personal, part philosophical, part anthropology of the internet, and it's the beginning of many more honest conversations here on Grace Pilled. In future episodes, I am electing some very special, awesome people to interview me about my life and my personal history and my thoughts about things, because last season I got some feedback that there wasn't enough attention on me, which I am taking very graciously. And it will be my pleasure to share more of myself. So this is a taste of more of what's to come. And we are releasing this episode today and all of the themes within for a reason, because registration for Attention 101 is officially open. If this episode brings up anything about your own relationship with screens, imagination, overwhelm, or personal agency, this course is where we're going to go all the way in. This 4-week experience is part social media detox bootcamp, part technological philosophical primer, part practical recalibration of your actual relationship with social screens and any types of devices that keep you pinned to your couch. And for launch week, we are offering a bundle deal, so you and a friend or accountability partner can take the class together and save $50 per ticket. So if you've been waiting for a sign to reclaim your mind, reclaim your creativity, and your capacity to truly actually think and form solid opinions, consider this episode a sign. Class is going to start January 6th, 2026, and sign up is on my website. Links are in the show notes, but let's get into this episode. All right, here we are. Another episode with Monica. Today, she is going to actually interview me about my experience being a niche micro celebrity spiritual influencer and what it's like for me to experience the digital space in the specific way that I experience it. Not just as a witnesser, but as a creator and a figure that's doing things very specifically on social media. And so that's basically all I'm going to say to to introduce the conversation. But Monica, do you want to just get started?
Yeah. Well, so we were talking about what are we going to talk about today? Because we want it to be about the digital space, much like we're talking about in our course in January 2026. And I think there's something really juicy about the context of social media and how we perceive each other. Because I don't know about you, but everyone I know in real life is much more dynamic than they show up online.
Mm-hmm.
And so you are a really wonderful depiction of that, because not only are we people who kind of now have started this working relationship, but we've been very good friends for a while now, nearing a decade, which is wild to think about. And to me, you are so much more than who you are online. But to some people, who you are online is it.
That's it.
So I want to talk about that a little bit today, of how that makes you feel, what that's like for you, and maybe give your audience too, as well as people who maybe are coming in from my world, a little bit more insight into who you are, what it's like to be you online. Which might be, does that feel vulnerable?
No, I love it. I'm so excited.
Cool. Well, so I think, can you tell us a little bit about your account and maybe what you feel like your reach is, and what tell us about you and your audience, maybe who you feel is watching you?
Yeah. Okay. Well, so my account is grace.pilled on Instagram, and that's where I was actually just writing about this last night because I take my work very seriously. Partially because it's how I survive and how I live off of. It's almost my full-time income aside from my other business. And so I take my work very seriously and I think about it a lot and try to iterate it and make sure that everything's working and I'm not like freaking out every month, which is a long learning lesson over the years as far as how it is to run a business online. But I was writing last night about how Instagram, I have multiple social media presences. Got TikTok, I'm on YouTube. I just started posting on YouTube Shorts actually recently because my business coach has been hassling me about it. But I was writing last night that Instagram is like the hub of all of the creativity. It's like where everything's cooking. It's where all of the ideas are cooking. It's where the conversations are cooking. It's where I gather a lot of data on who's in my audience, who I'm speaking to, what people are thinking about. I gauge the consensus, or not the consensus, but I gauge like what's the collective mood through Instagram in a lot of ways. And of course, the algorithm that I see is tailored to me and is a reflection of me. But I try to differentiate my algorithm enough that I see lots of different perspectives so I can kind of see what people are talking about. And so Instagram to me feels like this hub. And Grace Pilled right now is what it was, but it used to be organic abundance. And then before that, it was orgasmic abundance. And that was 5 years ago when I made the meme account. As I don't really seem like a memer anymore, but I started as a memer. All I posted on my feed for 2 years probably was just original memes. And in fact, everything I post on my account is original content. 100% of the things that I post on my account is original content. It's all my own work. It's all my words. It's all my memes, except for when I'm quoting my guru or something. And so, anywho, all this to say, it started with the memery 5 years ago. And basically, I just was sending memes to my partner at the time. And he was like, why don't you just make an Instagram and start posting memes? And so I would, at the time, it was winter. And I would work in the winters at Whole Foods when I was in the off season for my landscaping company. And I would just like make memes on my lunch break. I'd make memes on my toilet 15. And it was fun. And I had a lot of knowledge just kind of filed away. And this was also after graduating from college late. We both graduated in our late 20s from college. And so I just had a lot of information in my head that was just looking for a place to go. And at the time, I did not realize this is what I was doing. But I definitely used memery to kind of start spitting my ideas out. And then it just snowballed basically from there. So I just said a lot. I don't know if that's answering any questions here.
Well, I think that's how you gained your audience was through memery.
100%.
And it was kind of a sweet spot where, was this like right before
it was 2 months before the pandemic started in March.
Right. So that's a very like, this may be edgy to say considering it was like a horrible, horrific time, but it's kind of a ripe time to become a creator where everyone was suddenly online all the time and seeking this answer. Like I remember this specific meme that you posted with something that I think is, for me at least, still one of the most beautiful things you've ever written, which is you were talking about how your hands reach for beans in the store and that bag of beans touches and through the countries that are now experiencing this pandemic. And I still remember.
Unlocked a memory. I haven't thought about that.
Yeah. But it was a really beautiful thing. And I think it's such an interesting take to remember now when we're talking about like the ripple effect of the internet. I remember even the image you used was like so potent. I think it was from some protest. There's like a big sheet or something, I remember.
I think it said, it was like, well, it was basically like everyone, it was about being on the right side of history or something. Oh, it was everyone who's ever been politically correct has been on the right side of history. That's what it said. And then I think in the caption, I was talking about like, you know, when I was like buying a bunch of dry goods because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. Like this was like in March 2020. So I was buying a bunch of dry goods. And then I remember I reached down to touch the beans and I thought about how my hand, we were also very aware of touch in the very early pandemic. And most people still are on some level. I think it actually rewired a lot of our brains. But like you were, the cognitive dissonance that is normally there so that you can just function and not go insane was completely gone. And so you were just like touching things and you were like, oh God, does anybody else touch this bag of beans? Like I need to use like hand sanitizer or something. But I took that experience and I was thinking about how the person who put the beans there who works in the store took it out of the box where it got packed on a truck and then got packed in the factory and all these hands are touching it and how we're all actually just touching each other through a series of events, essentially. If I remember that right, because it was 5 years ago.
Correct.
Yes. But it's good that you say this, though, because I used memes to share my writing.
Yes.
And it was just whatever I felt inspired to talk about. And that's basically how it all got started.
Yeah. Which is kind of what you still do.
Yes.
You know, I don't think you've moved away from memes. It's that, I don't know, how would you describe what you do now compared to what you, like, how has it evolved?
I still am a writer because almost, I mean, if I'm posting like a 1-minute video on my story, just yapping about something, it's not scripted, but like most of the stuff that I film is scripted. And so it starts as a piece of writing. And so I think no matter what, I'm still a writer. So like the longer videos that I have, unless I'm really inspired and I can just say it, it's all me writing, you know? So I think I'm still a writer. I think I do less kind of like creative writing, maybe.
That's actually, well, so to reveal perhaps, that's something we've talked about in our personal world of being like friends, is you being interested in doing more creative writing and not just writing for work.
Totally.
So I think that's an interesting thread to maybe follow here too, because have you noticed a difference in your creation process? Because I would consider you like a pretty Renaissance woman level artist. You do many different things: painting, illustration. You make everything: jewelry making, sculpture, writing, poetry. But what you do for your job, for what I joke with everyone, it's a job ultimately, is clock into Instagram, where that's your creative hub, where you're like beta testing all of your ideas to also get people to your large library on Patreon of all your talks. Along with your courses, you just taught digital gardening. And do you make art for fun as much now that you're online so much?
This is such a huge topic. Because here's another thing too. I think I've said this before, but it's like I'm a spiritual person and spirituality is a huge part of my life. It's one of the focal points of my life. But sometimes before I even think of myself as a spiritual person, I first think of myself as an artist.
That makes sense.
Before that. And I don't know if everyone would make that connection if they maybe didn't know me or they're not like reading between the lines. But ultimately, I've experienced myself as an artist, and I just happen to make work related to the topic of spirituality. But also spirituality is also like the main focal point of my life. So it gets a little bit like what came first. But I would say that like when it comes to creativity and art and the creation of all these things, I've been an artist since I could hold a pencil or a crayon, probably. I don't think I ever was like, I'm going to start being an artist. It just happened. I could not do it. I had a fruitful environment with a dad who was quite artistic. And so I think he probably gave me the crayons and then I just started doing shit.
Yeah. I don't want to interrupt you entirely, but for people who don't know, Hanna's dad is like Dali level painter. Like, it's not just like my dad was an artist, but he like is very, very, very talented. Carry on.
Thank you.
So it's quite the fruitful environment to be soaking in the art pool.
Thank you. Yes. His name is Hone Williams if you want to Google him. Hone Williams. He lives in Vermont and paints alone in a cabin. So
Every day.
every day. And so anyway, so I I have this like unbeatable urge to create constantly. But when it comes to like whether it's visual art or writing, I've always kind of separated visual art and writing in my mind for some reason because I don't personally find visual art. Okay, so for instance, I think my real art form is words.
Hmm.
This is just my opinion. And something I've learned over the years being a professional artist and figure of sorts is that what I think about me almost doesn't matter. Everybody else is having their thoughts about me.
Mm-hmm.
But in my world, my words are my art. And the reason why it feels like that for me is because it really feels like I'm grinding myself down in the process of learning how to speak and write and communicate effectively. It feels like this grinding process. Whereas with visual art, I don't feel particularly challenged or like it's transforming me. I can say pretty confidently that I'm an extremely gifted visual artist, but it's not like challenging me. It's not like something where I'm like really figuring out who I am, what my role is, what my impact is, these sorts of things. It feels to me like writing and wordsmithing and effective communication is where I'm like really in an alchemical process of actualizing.
Mm.
And so this is just my opinion, but I think that most people, their art form is something on some level where that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
For me, visual art feels like a craft. I'm not trying to downgrade crafting or the idea of craft. It's just something I'm good at.
Mm-hmm.
It's a skill. Whereas it's like the other thing is like something's happening on a deeper level that like other people might not even fully see or understand because it's very personal for me.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
Oh
what do
my
you
gosh.
think about me saying that?
So many different ways to go with this. Similarly, just to maybe relate, I have always considered myself a visual artist. And art has really come relatively easily to me. I just do it. I think about this with like I make furniture. I'm now a ceramicist. I've sewn, I paint, I illustrate, I make jewelry. Like it just happened. I don't make things. I don't know how to not make things. But anytime I have presented my work to people, they always have told me I'm actually a writer.
What?
So it's very interesting to hear you say this because I've always been like, yeah. Or people will be like, you're so eloquent. You have such a way with words. Like, da 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 da. So it's just so interesting to hear you say this because part of my thought is maybe why a lot of our friendship is also that we are constantly turning over the stone of our lives to further polish it and figure out a better way to describe it, a more succinct way to say it. Okay, now how do we digest that thing we got from last year? Maybe it's actually this now. And so I'm curious too, because now you're online. Being online is your job. And do you find that your writing, I don't want to maybe say feels less creative, but like I'm hearing you say you started thinking in memes to create, which I'm very interested in, like maybe even the how, like what would you tell people about how to start thinking in memes? Is that fruitful? Because I also personally find that there's a restriction to needing to dilute what you say into caption form or into something that would perform in the algorithm. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Okay. Well, I would say this is really interesting. So, because my online presence is tied to my income and my livelihood, the things that I post over the years have become more and more and more laser focused to ensure that I'm getting the outcome that I want in my business.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and also, I find that this has been in all, this has actually been a really good experience because I've had to become extremely efficient in the way that I work. in order to not, first of all, hate my life, but also, like, you know, as a projector, just bringing some human design stuff in here, I can't like grind constantly. And so I've been basically forced into getting as efficient as possible when it comes to making stuff online or putting together a talk for Patreon or writing an email campaign series of like 8 to 10 emails. Like I can't spend like 2 days working on that. I don't have time for that. And so over the years, I've gotten extremely efficient at being able to take what's in my head and turn it into words. And it actually all started probably in 2022 because I had my first membership site. This is ancient Grace Pilled lore. And I would give a talk every week. And the talks were like 30, 45 minutes long. And because I script everything, I had to write a script for a 30 to 45 minute long talk every single week. And I did that for 9 months straight. This was before I realized that that was an insane thing for me to do. I'm not mad that I did it. I just could never do it again. Anyway, I say all this to say that because I said yes to doing that experience, I had to get so efficient at writing because I had a whole caseload of clients. That's not the right word, but I had like all these things going on. I'm teaching other classes and courses. I have to do admin stuff. I have to do marketing. How the hell am I going to write a 45-minute talk every single week? And so I started to do something that I still do, which is I would record myself just yapping, transcribe that, and then edit that into the actual talk. And so most of the writing that I do now is actually me recording myself just talking while I'm on a walk. And then that is what ends up being the email campaign series or the talk on Patreon or a thing that I want to do on social media, da 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 da. And I think that's really interesting because I used to think that writing had to be you're sitting down typing or you're writing on a piece of paper or something. However, when I want to do personal writing or if I want to do like really creative writing, I'm doing that typing or writing. I wouldn't talk it out. But the reason why I talk it out is because it's just literally more time efficient. And so because of my chronic illness, because of my lack of energy, and because of the fact that this is my job and I'm not fucking around, I've been really pushed towards more and more efficiency in the creative process. And sometimes people are like, I don't know how you get so much done. And I'm like, I wish I had the ability to do that. And I'm like, I don't have a choice here. I think a lot of people, you think it's so optional to like not be efficient. It's not optional. I've had to figure out how to do this or else I'll hate my life or nothing's actually working. So maybe this is some non-sacral energy or wisdom coming out, but it's like, you know, you have to get really squeaky clean about how you do things if you want to enjoy your working process. I don't know what you think about that.
No, I mean, I refuse to work for other people. And every time I try to work for other people, it works for them, but it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So I totally relate. But I'm also very struck by you're like, this is not an option. It's not optional. I don't know that people even realize they perceive their desire to do something as optional. I think that's a trait not only that you have, but that you've cultivated. And entrepreneurship is kind of like, you know, it's a different vibe if this were your first business, but it's kind of like your third, fourth business. You know, so you've refined your systems and attention and seasonality, given that you like worked in landscaping, you hired people, you needed to have overhead, etc. I don't necessarily want to get too deep into the business side of things, but like, I think the reason you've made it work for you was because not only do you have a chronic illness, but alongside the pandemic, alongside creating this account, you also were experiencing the hardest time in your life, personally and physically. So when you say it's not optional, I know that you really genuinely had so few other options to pay the rent.
Totally.
So this had to work. You had very few dollars. Like some of the courses that you invested in were like, these are my only dollars to invest in this thing. If it doesn't work out, it would be a waste of my time, energy, attention, resources.
And I'm also fucked if it doesn't work out.
Completely.
I have no support. I'm
Yeah.
a supporter.
Yes. So, you know, for fortunate and unfortunate circumstances, you've made it work because your perception is also that you have to make it work. I don't think that actually everyone has that kind of dedication and like you're committed to making your life what you want it to be,
Uh-huh.
right? So, can we follow that thread? Because I think the internet and the algorithm and social media is really fucking good at telling you what your life should be and distracting you from what you want your life to be.
Oh yeah.
So, how do you counteract that for yourself? Because you're saying even, it's like, I know that your content is 100% self-curated. I mean, and we could be arguable about that because a lot of it is fed from your lineage and your,
Oh, no, totally.
you know,
I don't
but
repost things. I don't like take screenshots of other people's shit and put it on my page.
right,
That's what I
right.
mean.
But it's like your stomach is the one digesting it, and we're hearing from the growls of your stomach, right? So, how do you become uninfluenceable?
Mm.
Because I know you're actually quite influenceable. Like you
Yeah.
also have people you follow on the internet and hire and etc. So yeah, talk a little bit about that.
Ooh,
What it
how do
is
I
to make your life
become?
your own.
Well, I've definitely been influenced because actually one of the things that I've had to work on since probably 2022. Because in 2022, I fully stepped into the role that I'm currently in of teaching about religion and spirituality, working with people, having this kind of online based business more than I had ever had it before. And in that time, I realized, like, oh shit, like, I really had no clue what I was doing. I was really just like running at full speed, figuring out what was going on. And there's a pipeline here. There's a pipeline to, oh shit, I'm starting an online business, whether it's coaching or something else. And because of that, my algorithm's going to send me people that are like, here's how to make 7 figures in 5 minutes. And so in the first like year of doing it, my mind was absolutely poisoned by the coaching industry.
Mm.
Absolutely poisoned by the coaching industry. And what I mean by that is that because people, whether it's true or not, were saying, I make $500,000 this year, I'm having a 7 figure year, I pull in $80,000 a month, like all of these crazy numbers, I thought that needs to be me. It never got to be me, but I thought that needs to be me. And if that's not me, I'm doing something wrong.
Mm.
And so this was like almost 4 years ago. And I basically was poisoned by this thought that, like, oh my God, if I'm not making a certain amount of money, I'm not uh, credible or I'm not successful or whatever. And I've had to really figure out on my own, what does success look like for me? What do I actually want? Not just like what these other people have. And is what those other people have even something that I can do? Something I want to do? Something that's actually ethical?
Mm.
Right? You know, because there's a lot of people that you know, you can bait a lot of people with fluff. And one of my bottom lines throughout my entire very short so far career of teaching and supporting people on the internet is I'm like no fluff.
Mm.
And so it's like I really try not to like bait and switch people and be like, you know, all this sort of stuff that I think makes people a lot of money. But I had
Mhm.
to work through my own internal experience of what do I actually want? How do I want my life to actually feel? What are my actual values? And basically that happened through just the trial and error of the pain that not being where I thought I should be was causing me,
Mhm.
you know?
Totally. Can you talk about orgasmic abundance while we're on this topic?
Well, yeah, because orgasmic abundance is directly related to this because that username was making fun of a girl whose like sex magic money manifestation method was called orgasmic abundance.
Mhm.
And I had this like maybe like 2019 I had this like obsession with this girl because I was in the early stages of kind of reconciling traditional grounded actual wisdom with modern pop spirituality and manifestation
Mhm.
culture, basically.
Mhm.
And so I became obsessed with this one girl because she just seemed like the epitome of that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Over the years, I think I've told the story maybe on a different episode, maybe with Rami. And I realized, like, oh, she was triggering my shadow.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I was really jealous of her because of my shame around sexuality and certain experiences that I had that were very disturbing when I was young that made me very averse to sexual things. So I was actually projecting on her. And I fully own that. But because maybe I was so in there. Oh, I bought one of her courses after I realized that. Yes, this is part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
After I realized that I was projecting on her and it was actually about my jealousy, I was like, I'm going to do shadow work here and buy one of her courses and see what she's about. And I didn't really go through the whole thing because I just kind of was like, whatever. But, there were kind of like seeds of like, this is what your life should look like. This is how you should be feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels like a big area for me personally, and maybe some people that are listening can resonate with it, because the thing that you're asking is like, how do you not be so how do you not become influenced away from who you are?
Yes.
When you're looking at shit on social media, whether it's a creator that you like, an artist that you like, or whatever. I'm just using the coaching industry as an example here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's so like astute, because the other side of it is you addressed things about yourself that needed to be looked at, right? The light shines in the shadow because of your work online, because you also have researching as a hobby, right? Which we're going to talk a lot about in Attention 101. You also spoke to like curating your current algorithm to be diverse set of views that maybe you don't all agree with all of them, but it's all good research. I'm always a proponent of like, read the book of the person you hate. You don't have to buy it, go rent it from or whatever, borrow it from the library, but like be a thorough hater. Like, I'm not interested in being a hater who like only is interested, like, I've read a bunch of headlines and that's why I'm a hater. Like, no, read their book, like cite it, like, let's talk about it. And then talk to someone who's like, yeah, on the third module of her course, she said this thing. And I was like, what, girl? But I think that kind of curation is so important because it can lead you to new places, right? We always want to be like digesting new information. I want to grow in the ways that I'm being asked to grow by myself, by other people. But I want to have limits to that because I stay tethered enough to myself and my own personhood, my own desires, that if someone asks me to grow in a way that might be harmful to me or to other people, or just that I'm not interested in, I can just say no. And I think a lot of people on the internet right now don't understand that they have a choice to like keep scrolling. Like, you actually don't have to say a comment on everything. Or the whole, people will be like, this thing about apples, and this is how you process apples, and this is why I really love apples, and why apples are a really good medicine for this. And people are like, well, what about oranges? You're not talking about oranges. And it's like,
Vitamin C. Have you heard of it?
Not everything is about, like, you want me to encapsulate the complexity of all human existence and animal existence and plant existence and water existence into a 1-minute reel on Instagram. And it has to be pretty and trendy. Mm-hmm. And hopefully you use new music and all of that better. So it's part of the reason I'm like interested in this, like speaking to captions. And I appreciate that you're like very transparent, which, just to plug your digital gardening course, which I think is on sale on your website, right?
Yeah, it's on my website.
Sorry, she didn't ask me to do this. I'm just a friend trying to help a girl out. But you're very transparent about your income in that course, right? And it's not like, and this is how you make $2 million a year. Like,
no, it's like, this is how you live, like, very comfortably in America.
Correct. And like can handle an emergency if your dog eats some things that, like,
that's right,
they weren't supposed to. So I also hear you speaking to, like, you have gotten so laser focused in your writing that it produces the outcome you desire. You are super into like testing the thing and seeing what the outcome is. So do you ever feel like you've developed this like extra sense for your audience? And in that, are you like curating life experiences for them?
Mm.
I'm curious, like, is that a hindrance? Is it a gift? Do you kind of compartmentalize your life experiences to be lessons for your audience? Thoughts you have? I know you have a lot of thoughts when you're like on walks.
Mm-hmm.
So it just feels like now you have this like sixth sense that's your internet algorithm that feeds the channel.
Yeah, I think it's twofold because there's a sense for who is following me based off of like comments that I see people making, what people repost and reshare. I feel like that tells me a lot about who is following me. I don't spend a lot of time looking at people's profiles, but like over the years, like I've kind of noticed, okay, like it's mostly like femme sort of people, maybe like 70% femme, 20% non-binary, 10% men. Probably how it goes. And then it's people that are a little alternative, people that have been burned by spirituality, actually, people that maybe grew up in a Catholic church, but they want to come back to God, or people that really want to own spirituality for themselves, but they haven't quite figured out how to do that yet. And it seems kind of like I'm a safe person to explore spiritual ideas with, people that are more alternative for sure, left leaning, but that's not 100% true. And so that's just data that I glean from what I see, but it's not enough. It's to say like, oh, I just need to pay attention to who my audience is, isn't quite enough, because the content that I create attracts the type of person that I want to
Mm-hmm.
be in the space. So I'm also partially responsible for who's there. I actually, partially responsible isn't even saying enough. I'm actually like 90% responsible for who is in my audience, because everything that I'm making is for someone. And I
Mm-hmm.
have quite a lot of clarity around the type of person that I want to be following me consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And that's clarity that I've gained over the years through the types of clients that I prefer working with. I'm just being honest. The people that I find are the most successful with my point of view and my philosophy that I teach.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, developing in the coaching industry, they'll say, or marketing, they'll say you need to develop a client avatar. I have a client avatar and
Mm-hmm.
I know it. I know what
Mm-hmm.
my client avatar is. You know what I mean? And so it's a combination of like my audiences. I have created them. I make them. You know what I mean? Because I give them the food that they want. But then
Mm-hmm.
I also maybe the things I couldn't have guessed is like, oh, I didn't really guess that it would be mostly femmes and women. I actually didn't
Mm-hmm.
guess that. I didn't really know. Of course, I look a little alternative, so a lot of alternative people hire me actually.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't look like a normal spiritual teacher. I just kind of look like a girl who was definitely a scene kid in 2007. You
Relatable.
know, elder
I do
elder
know.
emo.
I do know.
So anyway, that was a lot, but is that I was kind of answering your question of like extra sense for my audience.
Yeah. Yeah. So my next question, or it's like something that sparks my curiosity while I'm hearing you talk, is like, uh, what is the last thing you created that didn't think about engagement or like serving your audience, that it was just maybe something that you were interested in saying?
Patreon stuff is more like that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make Patreon stuff more like that. I think because I really respect and appreciate everyone who pays me their hard-earned money every month. And because I really respect that and appreciate it, I try to make sure what I'm posting is good shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're doing an exchange, right? It's like you give me your hard-earned cash. I try to make sure you have a good transformative experience in this space.
Mm-hmm.
And so on some level, I'm always holding myself to a standard of like what I'm actually producing,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know, that feels ethical to me. It's like if you're going to give me your money, I might as well make sure you're having like a good experience. But I'm trying to make Patreon more like just whatever random thoughts that I'm having and be like a little bit more personal. That's like a step that I'm actively taking. But then on Instagram, I don't know. I think like the closest is probably just when I'm randomly yapping in my story.
Mm.
Maybe I'm just like goofing around and like making a joke or something. But on some level, it's all tied into like, I know on some level if something's going to do well or not.
Well, you have 5 years of testing.
I have so much, I can't not understand the data.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. And it would also be irresponsible to your job to like ignore the data, because I think that's something that feels, for me, complicated about being online.
Mm-hmm.
And I, I just like took a trip to Seattle and posted about that on my personal account. And a new friend I met, I'm like in the pottery studio world, was like, wow, you already posted about Seattle. And it's like, yeah, I enjoy Instagram. I enjoy Instagram particularly as like just a place to share my life personally. And I'm much more private than I once was about what I share about my personal life online.
Mm.
I think you are too, right? We were talking a little bit before the call of like, I get to see your personal world a little bit more, but you're more careful because you have a larger audience to like expose your personal world to, and the people in your personal world to, with or without their consent.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that kind of curation makes sense, because I don't also think that if you're a business online, that Instagram rewards you unless you are considering your engagement and the outcome.
Right.
So it's literally a waste of your time to like not think about that kind of shit.
Yes. And a waste of your time. And then unless you can be completely non-attached and just be having a good time, it's annoying.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe like there's some like projector bitterness that comes up where it's like, even before I understood human design, I got this, where I was like, I get resentful and bitter when something that I spend a lot of time working on doesn't do well, but it's not the thing. I talk about digital feng shui sometimes. Sometimes it's not about the thing you're putting out, you're just putting it out in the wrong shape. And so I've developed an understanding of what are the shapes that actually do well in the algorithm. And it's not personal. It's not like Mark Zuckerberg is trying to ruin my life personally. It just like is what it is.
Yeah.
And so if something flops, I just put it in a different shape and then it does better. So it's like, being too attached to it needs to be a certain way isn't great. If you need to write long form writing, just start a Substack. But like, that's not going to do well on Instagram unless you're already a famous writer.
And it's what we talked about last time, is like there are certain platforms that have certain types of content that will do better.
Exactly.
Period. It's actually shocking to me that you only just started doing YouTube Shorts. Thank you so much for starting that. It's irresponsible of you to have neglected that to this point. Anyway.
It's very silly.
I think about that with Enlightenment for Regular People, which was like the pre-Patreon weekly talks that you were giving, right?
Well, no, there were 3.
Oh, okay.
There was the weekly talks, which was I hosted it on Ghost, which is a platform I do not recommend using, anyone who's listening.
Okay.
And then Enlightenment for Regular People was a teachable curriculum. So it was a school, and then the material would drip every 2 weeks.
Okay, right.
That's what that was.
And so did those weekly talks, or what you curated for Enlightenment for Regular People on Teachable, help you curate what you have on Patreon now?
Oh, 100%. It was that, like, everything on Patreon is from that era.
Which is now the right shape.
It's now the right shape. Yeah, it was all in the wrong shape before.
Yeah.
And so I persevered because I will climb tooth and nail to my success. And I put everything that was in the wrong shape into Patreon, and then I actually ended up doubling my monthly income. But it's all the same shit. It's digital feng shui.
Yeah. And as a person who has a job, you enjoy it more, from what I understand.
I 100% enjoy it more.
Yeah. Which is a question I have for you, actually. Do you like your job?
I love my job.
So that helps.
I love my job.
That you're actually genuinely curious and interested in curating this experience for yourself as well.
Yes. I love my job. And because I love my job, I do things that I would do to anything that I love. Which is try to improve it or make it better or make it more enjoyable. da 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 da.
Yeah.
There's things about my job that I find annoying, but that's going to be the case anywhere.
Because it's a job.
Because it's a job.
Yeah. So what do you do when you don't like your job?
I put on a big blanket and sit down and do my monthly accounting.
Does that
I think a big cup of tea. Yeah. This is actually something my business coach taught me like very early in our relationship. She was like, whenever you have to do something you don't like, just make yourself as comfortable as humanly possible to train your nervous system to start believing that numbers are not the enemy. And that actually worked. For me.
I mean, I am a Capricorn, so organizing information suits me.
Right.
In every way. And I don't know how to do it not cozy.
Right.
There's a beverage, there's a scent. I'm curating experience.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of scents, yeah, that was something that she taught me too. She was like, get an essential oil diffuser with a really nice smell and put that on every time you're doing something you don't want to do. To like associate that thing with something pleasurable. It totally worked.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I am in this so deep in my life right now and I just said this to a class on Monday that I'm digging the trenches of a new neural pathway in my brain.
Yes.
And some days digging that trench feels really like I am exerting every ounce of energy I have to create that new habit. And other days I'm like, God, it's so cozy in here. But it's only feeling cozy because I need it to be a pleasurable experience. And I also accept that it won't always be.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds a little bit like what you're describing in building your audience in your career, your now career, which you didn't give me permission to say this, but I will always be so struck by the day we graduated and you being so nervous about like what was next and how it's going to come about. And could you really do it? Could you really create this? Because I have this sense that people who follow you are just like, that girl was born confident. She has never had a day in her life that she doubts herself. And I don't know that it's necessarily like the most valuable information to know that like you're human. And of course you have doubts, but they seem to happen less and less and less because you do the work. I don't know if you follow. Do you know Alona Mar, the rugby player? I recommend everyone just get like a little dabble of her. She feels like someone in like human history that's kind of important right now. And I know it seems silly because she's just like an Olympian rugby player.
Okay.
But I think for people who are socialized as women and told that self-doubt is kind of like a cutesy little personality trait and that humility has to be self-doubt or it's not true humility, which to me, humility is so not self-doubt. It's just knowing that like I may not have the number one smartest thing in the room to say, but I have value and you have value too. That feels like humility. Anyway, people will ask her like, do you ever have imposter syndrome? And she's always like, I literally don't know why people keep asking me that. Like, I don't have imposter syndrome because I do the work. And because I do the work, I am where I'm at. And I don't doubt that I need to be here or deserve to be here because I've done everything that would require me to earn this opportunity to now be an Olympic level rugby player.
Totally.
Period. And so for me, with you, I think your confidence is earned from digging the trenches of a new neural pathway to create the business that you're in right now. And I think in doing so, what I've watched you do is become less and less distracted, take more and more breaks from the internet when you're feeling, I don't know that you've ever said you feel too exposed, like as a person, like people are watching you too much, so much as it's like you're porous to other people and their energies. Is that true? Am I getting that?
Like I feel porous. Well, I can feel porous to like, I think this is just very human, like criticism. Like if somebody's having like a major problem with something or like a comment section argument is happening or something, I can feel quite porous to that. But I've learned over the years how to deal with that feeling. And also like I'm very aware, almost like on an internal family systems level, of like who shows up in my head. when certain things are happening. And I know for myself that, like, when I'm being criticized, I become my mom, and she could not take feedback at all. And I almost feel this, like, energy inside of myself of, like, this scorpion of, like, shut the fuck up. Like, you don't know anything. But because I have so much self-awareness and because I've done the work, I can catch myself in that and then be like, okay, like, what's actually going on here? But actually, something that I do want to say is that I think that um, I have to give credit to social media as being part of my self-actualization process. There are aspects of myself that I would have never confronted if I wasn't publicly facing and putting myself out there and saying things that are, for all intents and purposes, kind of triggering and spicy for people on a regular basis. That has actually been wildly transformative for me.
Mm-hmm.
Wildly transformative.
Mm-hmm.
And I even look back on old videos of myself and I was masking. The way I talk now is, I think, I mean, I'm a bad judge of myself, but closer to probably how I actually talk. Maybe not the whole part of me, but it feels like a more authentic voice to me
Mm-hmm.
than, like, the other voice. I used to be a little bit too saccharine, a little bit too, like, I'm trying to, like, be too gentle. That's just not really actually who I was, but that's who I thought people wanted me to be. Yeah.
I gotta go. I think you're calling me out. No. It's true. And I think what's funny about you saying that is I don't perceive you to be an ungentle person,
Uh-huh.
you know? And I think you're very aware of there's so many things to say right now. I think you're very aware of how people are going to receive the thing that you're saying.
Yes.
And so how you show up in your marketing is maybe a little bit more direct
Yes.
than how you would show up in a session with someone,
Oh, 100%.
because you are aware of human psychology and how people might receive something they might need to hear, but it might be hard to hear.
Yeah.
So you're going to do the work to build trust and actually, like, be a good mentor to someone, you know? So I do think that the nature of the business that we're in is being aware of these, like, different intensity levels, like almost like you turn up the volume a little bit for marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And then that volume is a little bit more of a, like, a one-on-one conversation versus screaming to a room,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so all that to say, I do feel very curious of, like, as someone who is online for their job and has to, like, clock in and teaches courses online. And then when you're not showing your face on the algorithm or editing content for Patreon or showing up for Q&A sessions or teaching a course, how do you know when you've been too exposed to the internet and you need to take a break? Like, I know recently you just did, like, a weekend without screens.
I do that pretty regularly. I know, because this is something that when we do Attention 101, this is stuff that people are going to have to discover for themselves because we're all unique people with different bodies. But for me, one of the things that I know is I get this weird pressure in my face when I've been scrolling on Instagram or TikTok for too long. But I actually feel like this comes up more with TikTok because I don't really spend that much time scrolling on Instagram. Like, I'm there, I, like, answer some DMs, I post on my story. I'll look at my top 3 story thing people. They're usually, like, a close friend of mine or something. And then I kind of bounce. I'll scroll, I get, like, food recipes and stuff. But it's like TikTok is where I'll really catch myself spending too much time. And I'll start to feel this, like, pressure building in my face. And then also I'll start to feel my self-esteem starts going down. I can, like, feel it because I'll start comparing myself to specifically other women. And I'll think about, like, wow, they look so good or whatever. And I start, like, feeling bad about myself. Or, like, I'm not very motivated by fashion. Actually, I was just thinking about this yesterday. I was in a thrift store And I was thinking about how, like, I'm so creative, but I actually feel like the least creative aspect of me is my clothing choices.
Hmm.
And I was thinking about this too because I wrote on an email recently for my newsletter about creativity and how the most creative people that I know are very loose about how they think everything is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what makes somebody a really fashionable person is a looseness and kind of like you go into a thrift store and you see a dress and you're like, oh, I could make this look cool with all of these other things. I don't really think like that. I think I'm like so a specific flavor of autism where it's like I just have like the same shirt that I wear every day
Mm-hmm.
because I can't be bothered to think about it. Anyway, I'm just sharing all of this to say that when I'm on Instagram or TikTok, if I start feeling this pressure building in my face, that's a sign. And then also, like, I start feeling kind of like bad about myself.
Mm-hmm.
But because I have so much self awareness and I value my life and how I feel, and I don't like feeling that way, I've developed the capacity and the motivation to, like, not to step away. I
Mm-hmm.
also have app blockers, so they kick me off after a certain amount of time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to share about this face inflating feeling though, because what I think it is my brain starts getting too full. It's like there's all these ideas, there's all these things, there's all these hobbies I could suddenly have. There's all these artistic things, there's all these people teaching about a theory or something. And I literally think that pressure starts building in my face because I've eaten too much food in my
Mm-hmm.
brain.
Yeah, too much consumption.
Too much consumption. And actually, from the last conversation that we had, I'm pretty sure it was in the podcast episode, you were talking about writing after watching 3 videos.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing my own version of that
Mm-hmm. Me too.
recently. Hey, have you? Okay, good. Because we're training for Attention 101.
Yeah.
And I did that for creativity the other day, which was what that email was that I put out. Where I got off of TikTok. I was probably on, I didn't watch 3 videos. I did not watch just 3 videos. I was on probably for like half an hour. And then it kicked me off. And then I sat there and I had this one video ringing around in my head. And I was like, I'm just going to get up and write about it. And so I wrote down what it was that it was. And then something I realized was actually that I disagreed with her. And the thing that she was saying is she was painting and she looks at the camera and she goes, creativity is use it or lose it, which is a pretty hot line.
Oh, the hot take.
It's
Yep,
a
let me.
take.
It's a strategy to watch the rest of my video.
Exactly. No, and smart. I mean, Gal Queen, like, she was doing something. But it's like, it was interesting because I remember when I was watching it, I was like, yeah, but sure. And then when I got off of TikTok and I started reflecting on it, I was like, actually, I don't know if I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turned into this whole other writing exercise that I did of just kind of what I thought about what creativity was. But I say this to say, this is something that we should all develop awareness around. We severely underestimate how influenced we are by these sound bites that people say.
Absolutely.
And if you don't take time to reflect on the sound bites that you've been listening to, that's where you start becoming overly influenced or led astray from who you are and what you actually think.
Yes. Absolutely. I posted on Threads the other day, I have to watch 700 micro videos or something bad will happen. Because that's how I feel a little bit every day, where I will like notice, particularly, man, I avoid feeling. I love to intellectualize. I don't like to feel. And it's how I have coped is intellectualizing because that's how to me, not to my therapist, but to me, how I get to logic is I skip over feeling and I just rationalize and I make sense of the thing. But I've gotten so good at that now it's what I do for a living is I help other people make sense of their experiences.
Not interesting.
So it's, valuable. Just like sometimes we have to make art really, really bad for a while in order to make it really, really good. You have to do it messy. And yeah, it's just very easy to avoid my feelings by going on the internet. You know, I don't want to be with my partner. Maybe I feel bored. I don't know what to do with my hands. There's a task I really don't want to do. And for me, I will notice, literally, I've noticed the sensation where I will like kick up my leg to sit down and plop down on my phone. And I have to catch myself before I go to sit down, or I am sucked into the wormhole of that 700 videos a day dose.
It's like entering into an opium cloud, though. It's like
It's 100%. And it's how I get my dopamine. And now I don't know how else to get my dopamine. When really there are a million other things.
There are a lot of
to help
things.
Recalibrate those things. Especially for me, I actually am like deeply curious and hungry and like in wonder at the existence of the human life and experience. So what do you do when you're like, okay, this pressure is building in my face? I'm feeling really bad about myself. I don't have this like fashion sense that I'm apparently supposed to have as an artist, which I just sidebar personally. One of the things of my many lifetimes I've lived is I went to design school. And I find that some of the most creative people are so boring in how they dress, which is also not to say that that's exclusive, because some of the most creative people I know are like so fucking interesting
100%.
in how they can like see a piece and make it a whole outfit. I'm like so in.
No, I'm like shocked. I like don't get how people do that. It's like,
yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. Literally never stop doing it. This is not a criticism, but I do think it's both, right? Like there are people who wear all black and are like the highest paid creative directors around and are like influencing our marketing choices ad nauseum.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say Anna Wintour doesn't really dress that different every day. She has like a look, you know.
Yeah, I actually watched this great video. It was called What David Lynch's Breakfast Can Teach Us About Creativity or something. And the video was actually about much more than that. But in the beginning, he was talking about how he eats like a tin of tuna with sliced tomatoes like every morning or something. But the point that the YouTuber was trying to make is like in having like this discipline and regularity, it frees up a lot of space mentally.
I think that's so accurate.
It's very true for me. Very
true. Well, so what are the things that you do to free up that pressure in your head once it occurs?
Man, I mean, the first thing I think is just like put my phone in a fucking drawer and walk away. Get away from it, get away from the aura of the device. We were talking about our consciousness inhabiting the devices in our last conversation. So literally just like severing that connection. Probably like doing some cleaning. Like I'll just like tidy up the bedroom, or I'll tidy up the kitchen, take the dog for a spin or something. But the thing that I have been actively working on since we talked last, so it's been about a month, is I'm trying to think about this pressure and thinking about how to take advantage of diffusing that pressure in a way that's going to help my creative process. Because one of the things that we want to do with Attention 101 is not tell people to never use social media again, but view it as a tool for your self-actualization, for your creative process, for sharing important news in the world that people should know about, these sorts of things. And so when I've been doing a lot of writing recently, personal writing in a journal, which is actually really unusual for me, I am finding myself writing about a lot of the videos that I see.
I love that.
I find myself writing a lot about them. Like there's like, and it's been really fruitful. It's like been like there was this one girl, like I'm in a little bit of a slump financially right now. Not in the sense that anything's really wrong, but I'm just kind of like, okay, 2026 is coming. I need to like really think about next year. And there's this one girl who was just like basically giving some like coaching advice or something. And I ended up writing like several pages of my own thoughts about what she said. And then I was like, oh, what a useful way to spend my time. And it's totally off screen. I'm writing on paper. People can do whatever they want. I've actually been craving my typewriter again recently. I love my typewriter.
Love that.
Yeah. Oh, anyway, the pressure, I think that pressure that builds in my face, and maybe somebody listening to this like knows what I'm talking about, is because I need to process the things that I've been consuming. And it doesn't need to be everything, but usually for me, it's like there'll be like one or two videos that like are stuck in my head. And I'm like, okay, I should just like stream of consciousness write about what I saw, what's coming up, and then maybe I'll feel that release of that facial pressure after I do that.
Love that.
Yeah, but also just movement in general, like going for a walk or like tidying around the house or
Yeah.
yeah, is
Yeah.
helpful.
I think, have you seen Wall-E?
Yeah.
Okay, I think people should hold the image of what it is to not move your body from Wall-E much more prominently in your brains. And, you know, that's my own personal upbringing coming into play as someone who had a dad who started to look like that because he didn't move his body. But it's movement is important. And you, as a disabled person, can also still find ways to move that are right for you. Like, I'm not saying that everyone needs to like go for a walk on your legs, but there's something to be
like
said.
Breathing deeply is a form of movement.
Yes. Lifting your arms up and down. Like, I mean, there's really so many options that are specific for you.
Yes.
But I think movement is a way that we digest. And I think there's physical movement, and I think there's spiritual movement, and I think there's energetic movement, creative movement.
Yes.
And I think what you're describing is energetic and creative movement in writing.
Yes.
And that's, you know, what we're talking about a lot in Attention 101, the course that we're teaching in January, is like, how do we move from consumption? Because consumption is not inherently bad. And I actually think what we're interested in is people rightfully engaging with technology in a way that feels good and is sustainable, and also claims your agency to teach your way of rightfulness and sustainability to future generations who are only going to continue through the like exorbitant spin that is happening of like continued technology increase and integration. And, you know, I'm at the point now where I notice myself getting out of my car and I have everything in a bag except my phone and my keys, but I don't actually need my phone to get into the house. But something might happen between my car and the door. So I should put my fucking phone in my bag because I don't need it. But it's the thing that's like the most prominent, right?
Okay, can I share like a core memory that's coming up in my head right now?
Of course.
Okay, so I grew up outside Philadelphia, like a 10, 15-minute train ride outside of the city. And when I was like in high school, we would go downtown a lot. Like, if anyone's familiar with Philly, 2007, 2010, going to South Street was a total vibe. I don't know if it's a vibe anymore. And then going to Retrospect, which was this one thrift store that was like my entire life. And this was when I had like maybe, what was it called? A sidekick?
Oh my God.
Like, I maybe had a sidekick, but other than that, it was probably like a flip phone in the beginning. And I never had a smartphone in high school. But I had just got this core memory of my purse. My purse used to be where I would entertain myself on the train. Because maybe everybody else was staying downtown and I would take the train back home. And it's like, what am I going to do, to stare at my text messages? Like, phones were pretty boring. And so like, I just like, I had my purse and I just got this image of me opening it, and I have like a photo album. I used to carry like a little photo album with me. That was like pictures of friends that lived in other places or whatever, or like little memorabilia. I had a notebook. I had a book. There was always like things in my purse that were like very like ways for me to like entertain myself when I was just like sitting on the train. Or of course I would just like look out the window. But I'm just like, you're talking about like, I have my purse, but I have my phone and my keys in my hand. And it's like, why do we have to do that? I don't know. Am I making any sense? Is this connection even here? I don't even know.
100%. I think it's really, really, really important, actually. Oh man, I wish I had it near me. But one of the things I carry in my purse is a little notebook that is the size of my phone that I take out instead of my phone. Like, if I am waiting for a friend to meet me for coffee or an appointment to begin, I really challenge myself to sometimes like, oh, maybe I could get to that place a little early and spend just 10 to 15 minutes writing, reading, drawing, doing literally something that just like is not on my phone, being the only person in a room, sorry, that is not on their fucking phone. Because, an anthropological experiment for you to do in that same journal that you are in a room with is like, how many people are on my phone, and count them and tally how many people are on their phone right now. How many people are not on their phone? Keep that data score for like 6 months and just keep doing it every time you think about it. And then go back through and you can see like 80%, which would be probably lowballing it, of those people
80%
are on their
low.
phone. You're sitting on the train car. Who in the visible area is looking down at their cell phone? So I'm not a Puritan about things, because as much as it's easy to feel like I'm superior sitting in a room being an anthropologist about how people are consuming digital media, I am often sitting there with headphones in, whether they have a podcast playing or an audiobook or music. And sometimes actually, I don't know what it is about putting headphones in that just brings me into my own experience more. Like sometimes I'm not always listening to something. Just like a little bit of like a minor block. This is where my autism comes into play, of like a little bit of a minor block to the outside world that helps me actually like be with what I'm writing about a little bit. Or maybe even feel like people aren't going to come up to me like, what are you reading? It's like I'm actually reading. And it's so funny for me to be upset about that, because I think part of the reason, part of our problem these days is that we're also so resistant to being interrupted in public or inconvenienced by like human connection. Like, I'm reading a book right now. Don't disturb me, idiot. So I just think it's a really interesting experiment to like not only be in the world off of a screen and challenge yourself to be off of your screen. Sometimes what I'm writing in my notebook is what I would be doing otherwise on my screen.
Wait, like what?
Like, it's so easy for me to think about like, oh, I'm going to check my bank account real quick, or I have to check that email. But instead of checking my bank account or that email, which are things I would write down in my notebook, like, okay, make sure you do this task. I will see that I have a text from someone, and then I get distracted by that text, or they sent me a funny video. So then I go onto social media, and then I'm scrolling, and suddenly I forgot why I even fucking touched my phone in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an easy way for me to not get things done for like days and days or weeks and weeks at a time. That probably is a task that actually takes like 5 minutes. That's the ADHD struggle right there.
Wait, you can't get the task done because you keep getting distracted by notifications?
100%.
Uh-huh.
I'm in notification fatigue almost always.
Yeah.
I actually recently changed my phone number, as you know,
Yes.
because it was a way for me to streamline like how many spam calls, how many random advertisement text messages, how many, just like I need to be
Oh my God.
curating that experience a little bit more. And I've had the same phone number for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like a minor way for me to take a little bit more control.
Oh my God.
And I'm doing what I call like a digital audit, because my digital duplicate is out there signing me up for shit. Actually, one of my questions for you was like, how would you describe your digital duplicate? And as the person who is in the Grace Pilled verse, she's the host of the Grace Pilled show, literally.
So when you say who's my digital duplicate, you mean like who the internet thinks I am based off of my behavior?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Because you're already like, they don't think I'm a visual artist.
Oh. Digital duplicate. Well, I'm just thinking about like what I literally do. I'd be on Reddit.
Uh-huh.
I'd be on I do talk to ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
As my assistant, doing a lot of administrative tasks that save me hours of work, so I am grateful for that. Reading, floating between Associated Press and Reuters on the toilet in the morning. We were talking about that once.
We were talking about that. Actually, you make me think. I'm fairly certain that this is maybe like me cursing myself and I'm about to get summoned anyway, but I think my digital duplicate has been the reason I have never been summoned for jury duty.
Wait, really?
Never in my life. I do not understand how I have avoided this experience, but I'm fairly certain somewhere in the universe I have been dubbed like someone who should not be in a courtroom. And I don't know what. That's my theory. It's my theory. But I don't know. And it's interesting because a lot of people in my world have been like, oh, well, you and your activism. I'm like, I don't consider myself an activist necessarily. I guess I can see how they would see that perspective. But my digital duplicate and how I show up on social media, especially in previous years, is very like toward politics, like speaking my mind on like what is happening in the world. And so I'm curious if somewhere the FBI, my little FBI agent in my phone has been like, this girl should not be like in front of a criminal jury or something.
Wait, okay, first of all, I just had jury duty yesterday.
That's why I bring it up.
How often is this supposed to actually happen?
I don't actually know, but I just know that
was the first time I had ever been summoned.
Okay. But I had friends who have been summoned multiple times.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I think it also has to do with how big the city or the county you're in is, because it's by county. So if you live in like, it's a big county. I'm just trying to think of like how, like you live in a small town and there's just with one little court, you're going to end up on jury duty.
Well, I've never like lived in a small county before necessarily.
And I have. Anyway, this is fascinating.
But the reason I'm bringing it up is because I'm fairly certain that my digital duplicate is contributing to this. That's my theory. And it could just be like the luck of the draw. But yeah. I've always been like, how have I never been summoned? My brother's been summoned twice.
Yeah.
You know?
This is probably a good writing exercise for anyone who's listening, or even Attention 101. Like, who do you think your digital duplicate is?
100%. Who do you think people perceive you as online?
Oh, that one is going to trigger a lot of people.
You know, because there's like several different vantage points of the screen that you are interacting with.
Well, earlier you were asking me, like, do I curate certain parts of my life specifically for social media? And like, do I do certain things specifically for Instagram or like go certain places? And I would say no. What you see is mostly what my life actually is. Like, I spend a lot of time at home and I walk my dog a lot. And I also naturally end up in kind of like interesting places because I want to be there. Like, maybe a couple of months ago, my brother-in-law took me out for dinner at this restaurant that was literally covered in taxidermy.
Oh, right.
Every surface of the restaurant was taxidermy. It was incredible. Just not saying that I necessarily support that, but like as an experience, I was like, this is fucking crazy. And so, but I like posting stuff like that on my feed because one of the things that I'm kind of about is the full spectrum of experiencing. And absurdism. Like, I'm really interested in like the absurd and like having absurd experiences or the surreal. And so I'll just kind of naturally end up in places like that. But I think it's like, is it on brand or is it just who I am? Who I am is brand. That's the thing.
I do think that is like what we talk about. You were like saying that how you show up online is pretty authentic to you. Like you've developed your authentic voice over the years. I think it's very human, right? To like mask and do what you think people will like. Especially as someone who's like kind of claimed a career in being a little bit of like a public figure of some sort, or like a public scholar, you know, that's kind of like what I always have my eyes on for myself. And how do you integrate that kind of authenticity? You know, if we talk about it in marketing terms, it's like the know, like, trust factor. For me, that person who was selling the Orgasmic Abundance course, I'm like, is it? I had to remember it is orgasmic, not organic.
Yeah, Orgasmic Abundance was the original one. Yeah.
Is someone who I know that they would say their shit is authentic. To me, though, it does seem quite performative.
Well, because a lot of people like that have to, talk about know, like, trust. part of that shtick is presenting a lifestyle
Mm-hmm.
that proves that you are the thing that you're saying you are, or proves that you can get the outcome. And so a lot of people in the coaching industry will make it seem like they're living a more luxurious life than they actually are, because, well, like, you're not going to like do like 7-figure business coaching with somebody who lives in a dingy apartment.
Totally.
No shade to the dingy apartment, but it's like, it's like you have to make it seem like you're successful.
Yeah. The polishing is rewarded online. And it's a professionalism thing, I think.
Yes,
Is
totally.
like, I would personally, someone who just seems like they care for themselves and their life and their perspective and what they do for a living,
Yeah,
is helpful.
for sure.
So yeah, it's just all very interesting, because also the people that I'm interested in emulating, who I really look to learn from, are folks similar to you who like just feel like they have a grip on how they actually spend their time,
Mm.
And I think what you're talking about in this like practice that we brought up in the last podcast of writing about the videos that we're watching is you're kind of studying. Like, that to me is how you study something, actually, is you like read 50 pages, you write about those 50 pages. What are the questions you have about those 50 pages? What really stood out to you about those 50 pages?
Yeah, for sure.
What words did you not know from those 50 pages? And I think the art of studying and the art of research and like how you truly digest and learn, what we talk in the coaching world, and like kind of like, I know I talk about this a lot with my clients, is like, how do you integrate what we're talking about? It's very easy to be like in the theory of it. And I think journaling, going for walks, and straight up just like thinking.
Totally.
I talked about this with Ramon, right? Like thinking as a practice.
Yes.
I love that, because I think it's also how you metabolize things into your own voice, right? And so it's like, I'm like, bring back thinking.
Bring back pondering.
Legit, though, because I think pondering also is like a longer duration than a headline.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny too, because I'm thinking about like, oh man, what is the word for it? Anyway, if you were to like really sit with a mantra, I don't think people are really sitting with a headline in the same way that might be potent. I'm just poking holes in my own, like, you should do it this way, but I do think there's something to be said for like how I know for myself, opinion alert, I feel concerned with how people who may not have the same education and or value of studying and research, or access to studying and research, then take someone else's opinion in a headline that is a clickbait headline and are now like turning it into their worldview.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
yeah. Are you saying that's like a concern that you have?
it's a concern I have.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's how we've landed where we've landed.
Yeah.
It's like anti-intellectualism and anti-compassion and yada yada. But I think like the antidote is integration, because I also think there's something to be said for people who have that kind of access, developing a patience for people who don't.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but also like when it comes to access, it's like, most people have access to TikTok. I can't think of anything more accessible than writing for 5 minutes about the last video you watched. So
Completely.
not act like there's like an ivory tower around. Study and research. If you really want to study and research, you can go to the library. So I don't want to make it seem like that's that ridiculous.
Totally. It's part of the reason I say they don't have a value of doing that.
That's a good point. That's a good point with the value.
So yeah, because I know for myself, I love the internet, actually. Really love the internet. And I notice myself feeling jealous of an earlier me who just, this stuff didn't exist. Like Vine was like so fucking like pivotal to all of us. It was like,
Oh my God,
10-second video? Well, like YouTube?
Be creative.
Yeah. And I think about that too. Like, oh my gosh, Halloween is a great time online to see
That's
how
right.
creative people can be with their costumes. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. But
Yes.
I would get bored and I would like make towers out of leaves. I would write a song. I would make jewelry. I just had like crafts all the time, which is just like my adult form now.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, because I have my little tiny phone screen computer in my pocket, I have art supplies I haven't touched in years. And I have this like perfectionism or like I have to create and I have to film myself creating because that's going to be the process video that's going to feed the business, that's going to make people come to the market and they're going to buy my thing. And like it becomes like I do have this sixth sense of how my life is interacting with the internet or could feed the algorithm monster a little bit.
Right. But then, like, does the whole thought of like setting that all up prevent you from wanting to even do it?
Oh, but God, yeah. It's a burden. It's a burden. And I shared earlier, like, I really enjoy Instagram. I love photography. I love like
Mhm.
taking pictures of beautiful things that are happening in my world and videos and like just capturing again, like the wonder I feel when I go for a
Yeah.
walk and shit. But like that kind of gets ruined because I also have to be on this thing for my work.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really like a perspective issue because it's not, to your point, like there's no option. So I could choose to hate it, or I could choose to see it for this thing that has actually plugged me into these avenues.
Yes.
And I literally would never be exposed to certain information if I weren't on the internet.
100%.
But it's a balance because I can't only be on the internet and you
I
have to
know.
go for
It's
a walk,
all about balance,
you
all
know?
about moderation.
Yeah. So we were recently talking. I can't remember if this was off the podcast or on it, but because one of my things is always like I really wish I'm kind of glad to see like the book talk generation take off
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's giving people practice in prolonged attention spans. And we are both, I would say, avid readers. But you, is it kind of exclusively these days read on a Kindle?
Yes, I exclusively read on Kindle, but the last solid, the last actual book I read was the fifth sacred thing.
Did you finish it?
I did.
Oh my gosh.
And I took notes about what my experience was afterwards. So anyone who's listening, you can do that.
I love that.
Yeah, fabulous. It's like a top book, probably. Because
I
we
would
read
say
it.
so.
I read it 10 years ago. Did you take deep ecology at Naropa? Did you?
I never took deep ecology, but I got the
Oh,
curriculum from it from Janine Canty.
exactly.
And so I did read The Fifth Sacred Thing because of her. And also I think Ramon Parrish introduced me to Starhawk in
Yeah,
his class.
totally.
So,
So anyway, but the
Mhm.
book
The
was
real book.
the first real book I
Mhm.
had read. Maybe I have a human design manual that's physical, but like everything else is on Kindle. But it was
Mm.
different.
Tell me about that. Why was it different?
It felt different. It felt I think it just felt more like I was having a specific experience with this one specific piece of media. And I would go to this object to have a specific experience that I can only get from this one object.
Hmm.
Whereas on Kindle, I have like, it's a place that I go, but it's like all the letters all look the same. It doesn't matter what book I'm reading. It's
Hmm.
not like I'm holding a book that has a different weight or a different typeface or a different length or a different cover.
Interesting.
It's like when you go to the Kindle, it's like the words are all the same, but you know that you're reading a different book. Do I sound crazy or do you like know what I'm talking about?
I definitely know what you're talking about. And I think it's a very interesting observation.
Yeah. And
So,
I started reading I didn't read the sequel of The Fifth Sacred Thing, but I read the third book because I skipped the sequel because I didn't want to read it for personal reasons. But I'm starting to read the third book on Kindle because I didn't want to go out and get the physical one. I just wanted my immediate gratification. and I'm having like a slightly different experience.
What's the different experience now?
It just doesn't feel, it just feels different. I almost don't, this is like a half-baked experience
Yeah.
I'm currently having. It just feels different. Maybe also because maybe there's things about the book that I'm finding a little bit irritating. But it's like maybe because it could be contextual. Maybe because the book is so much, the original one is so much about like the human spirit and this kind of like utopian hands on the ground potential of like almost like this analog experience where they do have computers, but it's very like not anything like what we have. And she also wrote the book in 1993 before she ever possibly knew that it would be this bad. So, you know, when you read like old sci-fi or something and like they couldn't even conceive of this. And so it was like, you know, maybe that feeling of it being offline to read the book felt very appropriate to the context of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And then reading the second one on Kindle, it felt almost like like there was like this, what's the word I'm looking for? Not like disharmony, but like there was something like incongruent about it. And so I kind of want to like get the physical book now.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm
Now,
having this experience, but I'm a hardcore Kindle user.
I know. Well, it's so funny to hear you say this because I feel like when we talked about it a couple weeks ago, several weeks ago now, there was this like edge where you're like, it's not really a screen though, Monica.
Arguing with you about it. I was like, Kindle's not screen time.
You know, but like I get actually, you know, much like I think like audiobooks are reading,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but I would say the same thing. Like if you draw every single day on an iPad, I think it's a little different than drawing every day in a sketchbook. I don't know that I particularly have language for why
It's a
it's
feeling.
different, but it is a felt sense. The weight of the book in my hand, which sometimes I'm like reading books and I'm like, fuck, this thing is so cumbersome to read.
No, that's what my annoyance is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's why I
Or like I'm about to go traveling for multiple weeks. I don't want to bring 3 fucking books.
Precisely.
So it's not like it doesn't have a purpose, and it's not like you can't still have an embodied experience that is an antidote to the screen overwhelm.
Yes.
On that, right? I still think it's helping you develop your attention.
Yes.
Just like I think actually buying a course and finishing the course online helps you to develop like, and no shade, I fucking struggle with that too, but like I think it's one of the like practices we can have of developing your attention for a thing, and then also having the reasonable like, yep, I'm not interested in that anymore, and you don't finish it, right? It's both. But I think in a world where I notice myself watching videos and then being like, oh, let me put this at 2x because I just need to like finish what the fuck they're saying. Or sometimes I feel like the scariest observation I have for myself is that I hear them better when they're talking faster. Why? I'm like concerned about that for myself, you know? But one of the things I've started to do is read with my eyes and listen to a book at the same time because I notice my attention is locked fucking in to what I'm digesting. And I am an annotator. So I want to read a physical book. Like I have a Kindle. I highlight in the book. It's not the fucking same as me having my like markers and my tabs.
Yeah.
To like make little scribbles that for me feel, maybe I'm like I'm very good at romanticizing my life, but there's something really special to me about thinking about the library I'm leaving behind. I mean, clearly, that just have all my little thoughts. Like, and sometimes I'll reread a book and I'll see like that sometimes the same line influences the same thought in me 7 years later. Or other times I'm like, little child was scribbling in this book. Like, of course you would think that. You know, they're really like diary of how I was digesting what was being said. For me, the book, the sketchbook, the like, I'm even, maybe I'm just a hipster, sorry, but I'm also like, if the power goes out, or the like grid goes down and there's no internet, but there's still power, like I would like a record player to like listen to my favorite albums. And when I teach yoga classes, for people who come to my yoga classes, my asana classes, at the end, I often play a piece of music when you're laying on the ground, because it feels really special to just lay on the ground and listen to a piece of music.
Undistracted.
Yeah. Like let it like flood you. And I'm very particular about the stuff I play because it invokes a feeling. I'm not trying to control your experience, but I am trying to influence it a little bit.
Facilitating an experience.
Yeah. So I just think there's something really magical to analog. And I also think there's obviously like purpose. I will be bringing my Kindle on this next 2-week across the world trip I'm taking.
I love throwing my Kindle in my bag.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
And it's so lightweight.
Yeah.
Like I even have like, I don't know, it feels good. I like the matteness of it. They've considered the sense impression. Yes. But it's different.
It is different.
So it's interesting to hear you say.
I know, I was corrected. Not completely corrected, but I think that I gained more depth into my actual analysis of the Kindle versus not Kindle media.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know? Well, we need to start kind of wrapping up here.
Mm-hmm.
What are your takeaways from this conversation today? Like, what did you notice? What did you learn? What's sticking out to you?
Well, I want to say thank you for sharing your experience as like this niche internet creator, public figure. And I think it's really interesting to hear you share your journey with it, and for me, even just like recall your journey as someone who's maybe like kind of close on the sidelines. I feel like I've just been watching tons of content about the New York City Marathon, and I've always been the person with like the cardboard sign. Yeah. As you're like, enlightenment for regular people isn't working.
Yeah, totally.
Totally. And I think too, just you've given me language to consider with how we show up on the internet, because you and I are very different. Like I consider it kind of exposing. Like I feel like I'm under a magnifying glass. I don't like it. I do it, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
So for you that didn't even come up because it's just like not even, it's something you've already worked through.
Yeah, I just, for whatever reason, that's not a hang up for me. But I've got plenty of other hang ups, folks. There's plenty of other areas of life that I struggle, so we knock on something.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're human.
Yeah, totally.
And frankly, like, you need to be telling people that you know what you're talking about for your job.
Totally.
I was just talking to a friend of mine who, her company just laid off almost 50 people. It was wild. And she knows that she's going to be asked to do more for less without the title. And I was really like, could you just be a guy about it? Be like a white man about it and be like, I will not be doing that unless you give me the title and the pay. And when that hits my bank account and my,
we're Gucci,
then we're good. So all this to say, I do think there's a level of confidence that only comes from doing it, period.
That's right.
Doing the work. So that was another thing I got.
Yes.
Totally. What about you?
I think that unearthing that memory of my purse on the train in 2008 was particularly potent for me. Just like remembering, like feeling like it was like my purse was like a little place that I would go, full of trinkets and little things. And I don't know. I feel like I also have like sensory issues, so I kind of hate wearing a bag and carrying a purse, but
relatable.
It's like, it feels like very symbolic to me personally, that like image of the purse full of things to do versus the object that captures my soul temporarily. Yeah, my phone.
That's what I consider the tether. And so I make that like slurping sound because it literally feels like I'm like plugging something in that like takes from me.
Yes.
So using it wisely makes sense. What are you excited about for Attention 101?
Right now I'm really excited about all of the research that I'm doing, preparing for it. I think we're both coming in with a lot of knowledge already and experience already, but I'm doing my own research specifically about what we value and how we make choices. Because I think that a big theme in Attention 101 is how to make different choices.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not saying don't use social media, we're saying make choices around how you use social media. But what's the art of choice making? How do humans make choices? So I'm doing a lot of research about that right now. And so I feel excited about, like this whole process of preparing for the course is just really enjoyable.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think how to make choices for your life.
that's right.
And I think,
Yeah, 100%. Not just socials. Yeah.
yeah.
100%.
I mean, but it's like socials are kind of a huge part for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think I'm most excited for like the reflection that people will have. Like, who is your digital duplicate? How do you want to use social media? Like, what are your desires around being on the internet?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Well, who do you think you could be?
Yeah, like something I think that we do a lot when we teach together is how can we dream the new way?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to dream together.
Yes. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Bring back the spirit of the original internet.
Yeah.
That's something that we're going to talk about. But I don't want to give too much away.
I know there's so much. I'm like, and then we can. No, maybe I won't say that.
Okay, I have to go get my nails done, so I'm going to stop the recording. Okay, bye everybody.
Bye everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for listening. Ways to connect with both me and Monica are down in the show notes. And if anything in this conversation made you feel seen or made you rethink your own digital life, please go check out Attention 101. Registration is officially open and we have a bundle option so you can take it with a friend. If your mind has been feeling scattered, stretched, or stolen from you lately, this is the space where we can begin to take it back. And as always, if you loved this episode, the freest way to support my work is to leave a 5-star review. It makes a genuinely huge difference for independent creators like me. And if you've already left a review because you're the best listener ever, the next best thing to do is share your favorite Grace Pilled episode with a friend, or even this episode, maybe the person that you're going to take Attention 101 with. Your support through sharing is the #1 way to help my show grow. Thank you so much for being here.